Hey guys, you're now listening to the Coaches Network podcast, a podcast aimed at anyone who's passionate about athlete, talent, and personal development. My name's Coach Yas, and I'm a UEFA A-licensed football coach developer, and content creator. I'll be sitting down with a range of guests to discuss their journeys, their life lessons, and how you can make an impact. Enjoy.
So the Coaches Network has part of our Insight series. I have the pleasure today to be joined by a person who, as a player, had 66 caps, as well as 35 goals for England, all from midfield. As a manager, had a 15-year tenure as the England women's national team manager, as well as current role being at Brighton and Hove Albion as the first team women's manager here. Hope Powell MBE. Thank you for joining us today, Hope.
Very much. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And we're just going to get straight into it. How did your coaching journey start?
I think the reason I decided to coach many years ago was I wanted to be a professional footballer. I knew that wasn't an option, so I thought I would go down the coaching route. Hence, I started to do local coaching. I then ended up working for Crystal Palace Football in the Community. I did a stint abroad, got qualified along the way, coached local teams, boys teams, girls team, and then I just, went on that coaching journey, I guess.
And I couldn't help but notice when we're doing our research about this that you started whilst you were playing still at the age of 19.
Yeah, I started coaching at, I think it was 17. I was still a player. Had the opportunity to get some really good advice and some minimal experience, but some experience when I was at Millwall. My then coach was really helpful in me, understanding what coaching meant and giving me an opportunity to have a go. And that's where it all started, really.
And when I speak to a lot of coaches that do start from such a young age and they're still playing, they do tend to say that it did help them as a player to kind of see the game a bit different. How did it help your game, especially being in midfield there? Did it help with you seeing a bit more of the bigger picture?
Yeah, I think so. I think, it gives you an appreciation of what the coach is asking you to do, and then you kind of understand it better. It allowed me to see pictures earlier and, allowed me to make those decisions quicker. And it really helped my overall understanding of how the game could and should be played. So to do the two alongside each other, I think benefited me as a player, but then going forward, it really helped me as a coach because you get the perspective and the eye from both angles, if you like, from both lenses. So it helped me in both roles, actually.
And I couldn't help but see that upon my research that you also studied a degree in sports science and history.
Mm-hmm.
Just to gauge your timeline a bit, how old were you at that point when you done that?
God, it's a long time ago now.
Oh, it was yesterday, man.
Yeah, I just got to work back. So I think I took a year out. I think I must have been 19.
Okay.
20, something like that. 20.
Okay, so you were essentially kind of doing your coaching qualifications whilst doing that as well.
I tried it, yeah.
How did you find that, balancing the time up?
Well, back then it's very different to how it is now. I think it was the prelim. It was the level. I did my level 1 when I was whatever it would be called, the level 1 now. I think I did that when I was 17. My first coaching qualification was when I was 17. I got my B license, I think, when I was 19. And it's very different to how it is now. I think I did it during the summer for a week or 2 weeks and it was done and dusted. Now you have to, it's a lot lengthier. So it wasn't too difficult to balance the two. Today, probably a little bit more challenging, but arguably a better course. I think you learn more in today's courses compared to then. So to balance the two, it wasn't too onerous and allowed me to do it in the summer months anyway. So yeah, the balancing wasn't too challenging.
Okay, and I just wanted to just delve a bit more into it, just to get your opinion on like the comparison of like the old format and the new format. Uh, Fortunately or unfortunately, whatever way people see it, I was able to do the old format, the B, and then the new format, the A. So like I was able to see that difference as well, and I know that it's changed quite a bit. Like where people argue that now, yeah, it's a lot more holistic, but like there's less sort of technical, tactical detail in it.
Yeah.
What's your opinions on the changes there?
I think from the theoretical side first, if I address that, I think that's more in depth. I think you learn a lot more about the player, about yourself, um, and how you cope as a coach. I think that's really good. Gives you better insight today. On the pitch, I'm a detail coach, so the technical detail, back when I did it, I actually prefer. Having been a coach educator for the PFA, travelled extensively with UEFA and FIFA, I've always liked the detail. And I align it to, as a player, I wanted that detail. It's like doing a mathematical equation. If I don't have the detail, I don't know how to solve the problem.
Yeah.
So I'm a detail coach. I like to strip it back, but then it's the appropriateness of doing that and how often you do that. And I understand, the little bit more of the holistic bit. So there is a balance, I think, between the two. But definitely the detail for me is really important.
Yeah, agreed. Just for can you give like a little bit of advice for like coaches that are looking to seek that detail that just may be taking that new format? Like, what sort of ways would you recommend for them to kind of like expand their sort of technical and tactical knowledge? Let's say.
I think watching games. I think setting yourself perhaps a task around individual players and the detail of movement, the detail of how they cross, the detail of body shape. I think that's a really good exercise. Just trying to strip it back for yourself. Observe other coaches, perhaps challenge on the things that you're seeing, and then you might be able to elaborate a bit more on the detail, and just in your own coaching, perhaps pick a theme, and strip that detail back and try and introduce it into your coaching. But the easiest way is to perhaps watch and watch and strip something back, and then you very quickly almost train your eye. They're crossing on the run. What's the breakdown of that? What does that look like if you do it step by step? And then you can really sort of accumulate that detail from just watching and maybe write those points down.
Very good advice there. I just want to harken back to your timeline now. Your time at England, you were the first full-time national coach for the England's women's team. You led them to, fantastic sort of like international success, where you were able to get them to the quarterfinals of the 2005 European Championships, as well as bring them to the finals of the 2009 one. Just that last one, that last step there. This was all over a year of 15 years. Can you just tell us a bit about your time? Like, how did you find that? Because I can imagine over that time, the women's game in England did change quite a lot, and it was all thanks to you really pushing it from the top.
Yeah, I mean, when I first, obviously I was a player, so it gave me great insight into international environment. I ran with the bits that I liked. I changed the bits I didn't like. We didn't have the resources that are clearly there now. We had a very small team, and we just tried to prioritise, or certainly I tried to prioritise what I thought was important, and basically I had a short, mid and long-term plan. That was always a long journey, and we knew we tried to put the building blocks in place, create a really good foundation. Bit of succession planning went into that, but really just looked at what have we got, where do we want to be, and just try to really, it's as simple as that, try to build on that. And that was, and every year, every tournament, every opportunity, we just added to it, and built on it. And now I think they've got a really, really good foundation to work from, and I think they've built on that even further. And the investment and the resources that's now being put into the women's game, certainly at the international level, has helped push it on even further.
Yeah, and like you said, you built these foundations for them to do so. But I can imagine when you were initially starting, there was a lot of things that may have been happening in the setup that may have not been up to the standards. So how did you manage those sort of limitations in terms of like potential lack of support from, in terms of finance or multidisciplinary stuff, etc.?
Well, it was just about the challenges of making sure we got the support, questioning, getting allies, putting a plan together. This is what we need. This is how long it's going to take. This could be the financial implications on the FA. If we don't do it, this is going to be a problem. So it was just a case of working with people, working with decision makers, convincing them that, perhaps this is what we need, this is what we don't need, and continuing to ask the questions. I always went back when I got something. I always went back for something else, and trying to tell the story of the women's game, trying to get people, the decision makers, to embrace it, and slowly we certainly I chipped away. Every day was a challenge. Every day I felt like it was a fight. It's not always a bad fight. Some fights I won, some I didn't. And obviously had to choose those moments, choose the battles, pay more attention in the areas where I thought I could get quick gains, and perhaps maneuver myself in a different way when I thought it was going to be a bigger challenge. But I just kept on because I believed in what we were trying to do. And I think that really helped me and gave me the drive to continue to do it as long as I possibly could. And that's what I did.
And just on that, that sort of constant sort of resilience that you have to have and whatnot, what necessarily kept you motivated in that period there where there's a lot, you may have got a lot of no's to your questions and stuff like this, and a lot of people doubting it, but obviously your success did show after, but before that there was a process that you had to go through where you had to kind of challenge the norms of that time. How did you motivate yourself every day just to kind of do that?
I think, in all honesty, it was the fear of failure. My driver. I really felt I can't fail this. I cannot, because for myself, but for everything that comes after. I cannot fail. It was a real driver for me. Just not wanting to fail made me, I sit here and I look back and I don't know how I did it for so long. I just oh my God, God, how did I manage to do that and sustain that level for so long? But the fact that I enjoyed it and I wanted to make change, but it was really the I don't want to foul, I cannot, there's no compromise here. And that really drove me. And I had some good people around me that really encouraged me and believed in me. And that was a massive help. But really my driver was not to fail.
And go on, yes.
Yeah, hey, I'm sorry for the delay there. I've had a bit of an issue with my little one, but
you okay?
Yeah, all good. Yeah, just putting him to bed. He's teething at the moment.
Okay.
So just touching on obviously your time with England there. Did you ever get to a point where maybe you felt like you might need a bit of break? Because if you're there for quite a period of time, it's not common that you get coaches and particularly managers of a team there for that period of time, especially not nowadays.
Yeah, definitely. I think the difference, it was really, I loved it. I loved, the role that I did. I loved the people that I worked with. I loved it for 15 years, bar 5 minutes, and I got fired. That was the real low point. of that journey. Most of the time it was great. There were challenges. It was hard work. I was frustrated. I had all those things, but overall I really enjoyed it. And that was, largely down to the players and the team that I worked with. I think after the 2009, when we got to the final of the European Championships, was the time where I was absolutely knackered, and a point where, I would have happily stepped down. But I wanted to stay within the FA, and I think at that point there was I felt like, maybe there was, I should have asked the question, I felt like that would have been an opportunity to step down and do something else. And I didn't, and then you go on and it's the next tournament. But I was really tired. I think I wanted at that point to stop because I was tired. I was responsible for all teams. I travelled every year. I was in a tournament. I'm not sure any other coach on the planet had ever done that, with all the squads, because I wanted to support the staff and I wanted to support the players. Some might say that's micromanagement, but it wasn't. It was, I wanted to share my knowledge and experience with the coaches that were in place then, and they needed that. But at that point, 2009 was I'm really tired. I could do with, even if I had 6 months off, that would have been great. But then you just go again and you find the energy again, and
Just on that, you touched there on maybe wanting to maybe go into something different, and obviously even being not many coaches that go on tournaments each year, but there's also something else that you achieved quite prestigiously in your career, and obviously that was becoming the first female coach to get the UEFA Pro license. What was that like?
It was. To be honest, I didn't want to do it. I was, that fear and anxiety around going in that environment, all men. God, do I have to do this? And I'm really pleased I did. I challenged Howard Wilkinson on it. He told me, putting you on the pro license, hope. I'm like, right, why? Because it'd be good. Well, I don't want to. And he just said to me, well, I'm telling you, you have to. And I was like, okay, and I'm really pleased he did that. It was a great experience. I worked with some great people, some great coaches, and more importantly, learnt a lot. So really thankful now that looking back, I did that and I went through that process, because it is a lot harder to get today than it was back then. The demands of it there's a lot more work around it. So I'm really pleased I did it when I did.
Right, and obviously the pro license is much more catered around the management side of things and obviously the operational side of things. What would you say were the biggest takeaways that you took away from that, having already had a few years working in management at that time?
I think there were lots. How you manage, the maverick player, and it was geared a lot around the men's game. How you manage a millionaire. I think one of the really good things was the media. How you manage yourself in front of the media and the pitfalls of that sometimes. So those are the real key takeaway things that I thought could really help me. And really it was also, what I really liked was working, you had to work as a team. I think we had a team of 4 coaches, and just experience different opinions and views around the game. And certainly they were all coming from the male perspective, and I was coming from the female perspective, and what you could perhaps take from the male and what they could take from the female perspective. So it was lots of learning, and I know the course has developed so much more since then, but a real credible course, and with credible people when I did it. Certainly Howard Wilkinson and Les Reed were the directors of the course. And their experiences they shared, and as a student of the course, I really learned a lot from them.
Brilliant. You touched on just a little bit there about maybe wanting to do something slightly different at a certain point in your career. Now, albeit a brief period, you actually spent a bit of time after leaving the England role and before coming to Brighton, obviously with the PFA and a coach education capacity, didn't you?
Yeah, well, before I went, I did a lot of stuff with UEFA and FIFA in coach education, and trying to support other female coaches, male coaches in the game, and obviously a stint at the PFA coach education again. I'm a real believer in sharing and helping others. Yeah, so that was different. To be honest, you know, I was really pulled between leaving the PFA and going to Brighton. But I think you know, I'm not just a coach at Brighton. I feel I have the same role I had with the FA, but not on a national level. You know, I'm responsible for the whole structure. I kind of like have a technical director feel. Is what I felt I was doing at the FA actually is feels like pretty much it's what I'm doing at Brighton.
Brilliant. And just to, just touching on there, Brighton, you talked there about some of the biggest differences that you've maybe come to find between the difference between managing the national side and obviously that managing a club now.
Yeah, I think when I first went to Brighton, obviously the first club role, I felt like I was in a tournament. It was relentless. I felt like I was in this constant tournament because the games came once a week, sometimes twice a week, and then there was another week and another training every day. I think you got, you know, whereas internationally you might be in a major tournament for 6 weeks, you can see the end, you know, and you can plan quite, you know, you get out of the group, you've got this much time in between, you got, you know, you get to the semis, you've got this, you get to the finals, if you don't get to the semis, you're out, you go home and you get a little bit of downtime and you're planning for the next tournament. Club football, you play the game on Sunday, you're preparing for a Wednesday game, you're preparing for the Sunday game, or it might be, you know, 7 days. The break might be, you know, the international break, but you're still preparing for when everybody comes back, you know, and you're preparing and you're managing a game, you're managing yourself, you're managing the start. It is relentless. And that I really had to, oh my God, do I get a break here? But you know, obviously you adjust, and you know, even in the, you know, the summer months when it's your off period, there is no off period because you are then planning for the new season, new players, releasing players. It is relentless, and then you quickly adapt, and you know, it's really good fun. Actually, I quite like it.
Just, you know, just to kind of go deep on the role of Brighton, you talked there about maybe assuming a bit more of a technical director feel to the role that you actually got. And actually having a bit more of a oversight of everything that's happening at the club, especially in the women's side of things. Anyway, can you just talk us through the pathway of the RTCs and how that links into the first team there?
Yeah, so it's pretty similar to what, you know, what I did at the FA, and you know, you got the under, you know, kind of put in place the youth under 15s and that pathway so that they all get to the first team. I did that with England, and now I'm doing it at Brighton, where our under 10s, they come in our RTC at under 10s, under 12, then go to under 12s, under 14s, under 16s, the academy, and then hopefully the first team. So just trying to make sure that there's a clear pathway, a clear philosophy. All the coaches are, you know, giving the same messages. We're trying to talent ID players that, you know, we think can fit our culture, that can work in our environment, and more importantly, players that we think we can develop to reach the first team. I'm a believer in homegrown talent, that the owner believes in homegrown talent. You know, we invest a lot of time and money in young players, so we really want to try and get them to be, number one, good people, number two, first team players, but if not, you know, give them the opportunity to go and play elsewhere and enjoy their football. More importantly, keep them in the game.
Yeah, and I think what I'm finding now, especially in this day and age, is that that's probably the sort of most sustainable model for clubs as well to survive.
Yeah, I think certainly, you know, we look at the men's game, and you know, some of the Brentford, you know, disbanded their academy, made no sense, expensive. I think someone else, I can't remember what club, have also just done it.
Huddersfield?
Was it Huddersfield? I can't remember. Was it? Okay, but you know, and I'm thinking, you know, we're investing all this time and money. Well, if you don't look at your homegrown talent, what's the point? You know, what's the point of having an academy or a RTC? So we're really trying to do some work with coaches, better players, better players, better chance of coming through our system and doing well at Brighton.
And I guess part of that would be kind of translating your sort of coaching philosophy onto the coaches that are like, working in the youth sector. So just in regards to that, what would you say is like the fundamentals of your own coaching philosophy?
I have to, this word philosophy is quite broad, isn't it?
I like to think of it as non-negotiables, but you can think of what, like non-negotiables.
Yeah, in terms of players.
Yeah.
I think for me, one of the big things at the moment that I'm really working on are those brilliant basics. Ball manipulation. Players have got to be able to manage the ball, and be at one with the ball. And I don't, certainly when I first went to the clubs, I think those basic ball manipulation skills just weren't there enough for me. So one of the things I will not compromise on is those brilliant basics. It's got to form part of the philosophy every day, every session. Somewhere it's got to be in there where they get those touches on the ball and they're comfortable with it and they're prepared to take risks. And prepared to have a go, but you've got to be comfortable with the ball at your feet. Brilliant basics for me.
I can agree with you in that aspect there. And just like in regards to that, what do you feel then like kind of makes Brighton's Women's Academy and RTC so unique in comparison to like others?
Is it unique? I don't honestly know. I don't. I know some people that work in the academy. I don't know that it's unique. I think what we're trying to do is create an environment where players and coaches are comfortable. We want to develop the coaches and the players. We want to really set an environment where players and coaches are challenged on a weekly basis. And they aspire to be the very best they can be. If they don't have the challenges, then they're never going to appreciate how far they can go as coaches, as people, and as players. So it's really important that we challenge the players, we get them out of their comfort zones, we get the coaches out of their comfort zones in order to push them on. And I'm sure most academies would do that as a starting point for sure.
Yeah, and I guess it's kind of like the key word they use there in terms of environment as far as the environment is kind of set right, like the byproduct should be hopefully the excellence and success that comes with it.
Yeah, we want, an environment where players are happy to express themselves. There's no fear of failure. We want them to take risks. We want the coaches to not be afraid of failing. We're there to support. We want them to take risks because we want to raise standards. If we don't challenge, the standards will never be raised. And that's what we're working on at the moment.
And you kind of touched on it a bit when you were talking about your coaching philosophy, but what would you say is like your biggest bugbear when it comes to coaching?
Yeah,
So you can say a long list if you want.
I don't know. I think, I think that's a real, maybe this is just me, I don't know. I find these sort of questions really challenging actually, because I never know, I'm not sure there's ever a real answer, because I think as a coach, you have to appreciate that your role is to help others develop. And more often than not, what you're trying to do, what you're trying to get players to do, how you're trying to help them, you probably have to say the same thing 1,000 times. I know I've done it all my career, said the same thing 1,000,000 times over, and still the same things are happening. And I think that's part of coaching. I don't. But I guess what you're saying is what really winds me up.
Yeah.
It's when it's cold. That's the only thing I can, when I'm freezing cold, and I know this isn't answering the question, but this is as good as it gets.
It's a bit of a cop-out, isn't it?
Yeah, I really don't like the cold, but yet I work outside. Just it's to know why on earth have I chosen this line of work?
Well, a
Sorry.
better way to maybe rephrase the question would be: is there anything that you see commonly amongst coaches, or you have seen in your experience, that maybe when you do see it, it kind of frustrates you a little bit?
Frustrates me. I think coaches were all guilty of talking too much. That really winds me up. You know, and it becomes more about what I'm saying and less about what you're asking the players to do. You know, I'm forever saying to coaches, stop talking, let them have a go. Just let them have a go. You know, I'm guilty of it myself sometimes, you know, but certainly with kids, you know, when you're working with a first team and you're trying to do a strategy, they have to understand where you want to play for a reason, because this is what you're going to come up against. When you're working with kids and the coaches, you know, we just talk too much. Keep it simple and let them have a go. So yes, that is my bugbear. Well done. Yeah. So that's it.
Yeah, I think we managed to get out.
Get there in the end.
And like, as I can imagine, you have achieved so much in your career, and you've kind of had to you know, break the borders and the boundaries down. That I can imagine you faced a lot of challenges. But what would you say has been your biggest challenge in your coaching journey, and how have you dealt with it?
Yeah, I get asked this a lot. I so, you know, in terms of coaching, I think some of the challenges have been when I've tried to get myself qualified, when I've been on courses and it's 99% men, and you know, you're not listened to, or you're ignored, or the expectation is that you're a female and you don't know what you're talking about. You know, going on the course is challenging in itself, because you know you're going to be in the minority, being female and being black generally. So those have been challenges along the way. Every course I've ever been on, my A license, my pro license, always been the same. I think how did I overcome it? I just, you know, with belief in my ability. I'm not saying I wasn't scared. I'm not saying I wasn't frightened. I'm not saying it wasn't challenging. I had all those fears and anxieties that we all have. But I was prepared to face them head on and have a go, and not, and believe. What really helped me with that was I knew I could play the game. You know, I knew I understood the game, and I knew if challenged around the game, I could answer. But it's always the courses have been the most challenging.
Just on that, you know, to take you back a little bit there, you touched on a little bit, but obviously being a female coach, but female black coach, and that, or better yet, a female coach that it happens to be black.
Yeah.
And we've recently spoken to a lot of coaches from the black community, in particular, you know, with the likes of Chris Ramsey, and just to name one. But and Chris actually touched on it coming through at the FA. You know, when he was a regional coach, development manager. Obviously, you were at the FA at that time as well, and there was a real segregation to an extent. It was almost like it was an unspoken bias, but it was there. What would you say is, you know, maybe some advice that you can give to some of the younger black coaches in particular, or any ethnic coaches, and females obviously as well, that may be facing similar challenges, and maybe how to maybe navigate, especially obviously going through this time frame at this moment in time, obviously the Black Lives Matter movement and such. Well, there's a lot of light being shed on it at this moment in time. Have you got any advice for coaches maybe going through that?
I think the only way I can only think about myself and what I did. You know, I know you see me as black. I don't have a problem with it, and I am not going to what your perceptions of me are deter me from doing the best I can do, and being polite, being who I am, which is a nice person, hardworking, and just try and get on with everybody. I'm not going to let your perceptions of me stop me, because that could, so, you know, a woman, you know, as a woman, the perceptions of women, the courses that I've been on certainly is that, you know, you're a woman, what do you know? I know that, but I'm not going to let that stop me being the best I can and showing my worth and showing my skill set and showing my talent. I'm not going to, and I just refused. So I ignored it. I know I'm black. I don't need you to tell me I'm black. I know I'm a woman. I don't need you to tell me that. So I just focused on the task. Just focus on what it is you're striving for. You know what's going on. Just focus on that. And that's what I did.
Yeah, I think that's quite commendable of you, like in that sense there, because people always like to say that it's racism in football and stuff like that, but football is just a reflection of society itself. And I guess in that sense there, that you always have to, well, when you are the minority, you always have a point to prove, sort of thing. In that sense, I commend you for it. Just touching on it more, like how was it in the courses? Because you've already like started and touched on it as well. Like, what were the interactions like that kind of deterred you a bit from that?
So say that bit again. What?
How were like the interactions like on the courses? Like, did you feel like they were kind of communicating with you a bit differently?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I felt that was more that it was the woman bit as well, the gentleman and the swearing that, and I always have to say, listen, I can swear as much as the next person. It's not a problem. And there's a lady in the room. It used to wind me up, that. But I respect the fact that people are trying to be respectful, which in one respect I liked, but in another respect I didn't, because you almost felt excluded. Well, you were, because you were a woman. They can't speak in the way they want to speak in football because you're a woman. So there was always that. But that being said, I think it was, it's like the material on courses. Everything was focused on pictures and images of men. They were always white pictures of what, it was that. And, so I had to get my head around that and go, right, it is what it is, challenge it where you can in a respectful way. Are we going to are there any pictures of women up there? And do the respectful thing, but don't let it deter you. Don't let all those things that are going on around you deter you from your goal. Because those things are still going to go on around you. And if you're hijacked by that, you're going to lose your focus to be the very best you can in what you want to achieve.
And just like Yas said a bit earlier, like, just to reiterate, you are a coach who just happens to be a black female, not a black female coach. And just in regards to that, you got awarded, with an OBE and a CBE in terms of your work in football. And I'm going to meet like a handful of people in my life that have such an achievement. So, like, how was that? Like, how did you get the message in that sense?
So it's all very, very secretive. You get a letter, and don't share this with anybody, and what's this, and then you realise what it is, and you do share it with people because you want your family to know that this wonderful thing, should you choose to accept it, as happened. So a very special honour, and I felt it wasn't just for me. It was a reward for everybody that I'd worked with, all the people that have been on the journey with me, all those that were passionate about women's football and have helped me. And I took it on behalf of myself and behalf of them. And certainly my mentor, who, was my coach at 11 and has been with me all through my coaching career, has worked for me, still with me now. I actually took him to, you can invite people to see you awarded with your OBE, CBE, and I took him along as a way of saying thank you. So I really accepted it as, great recognition for women's football, not just me, but for everybody involved at that time that worked with me. So it was a great honour, I must say. Both of them a great honour. I'm very privileged.
Brilliant. You just touched on there about, having a mentor. It would be great to know who that mentor is and maybe what some of the key things you've really taken from him.
Yeah, he loves this bit, because always when I'm doing these things, I always tell him I've mentioned his name. And he loves it. His name's Alan May. He coached me when I was 11. His experiences were coaching male and female, men and women. But he was actually a manager, quite a senior manager at BT. since retired, but a very, very senior role. And not only did he help me with my coaching, but he helped me in terms of managing people. And, you know, I was put into this role of managing the England team, and suddenly you have all this responsibility about managing a group of people, managing a group of players, and managing a group of staff. And he really gave me some insight as to how you manage groups of people, and how you work, and how you get the best out of people, and what, you know, perhaps the things you should or could do, and perhaps the things you really need not to do to take people on this journey. So he really helped me with that. He helped me when it came to going on courses, giving me the confidence and the belief, and, you know, that focus. You know, all of this stuff is going on around you, but you got, you know, look at the end goal. You know, don't be sidetracked by this other stuff.
Yeah.
And has always helped me, helps me today. You know, if I've got something I really need to talk through, you know I can pick him up and pick the phone up, and, you know, it's just that ear, isn't it? It's just,
definitely. I think just as we go through our journeys, and just not just in coaching, but in life insurance, it's always good to have a bit of a soundboard, someone who's, you know, sometimes not even offering any insight themselves, but just a perspective on what you're thinking. But I want to kind of bring you back to that question, because you didn't actually tell us any of your secrets.
Secrets? What?
And any golden nuggets that he's giving you?
I think you build your own nuggets along the way, don't I? You know, I think. Oh God, I wish he was here now. He could just. I mean, one of his big things. I mean, he'll love this. I actually, he was the one that called when the phone rang, I think. You know, he always. You know, when people are moaning and, you know, can't do this open, players moan and staff moan about, you know, one of his things was always, you know, ask them, tell me what you can do, don't tell me what you can't do. You know, which is always, you know, tell me what you can do, don't tell me what you can't do, which is a nugget for me, because people are, you know, let's find a solution.
Yeah.
Think about solutions. Let's not always go on the, what's the solution to it? There's got to be another way. Tell me what you can do. And that is a little nugget for me.
Definitely. I think I find myself with just taking that, you know, and applying it into my own context, that anytime I've personally had a problem, or someone's brought a problem to me, people are much more receptive to supporting and collaborating with you and cooperating and finding a way out of the situation. If you've done the groundwork, and you might have an idea for a solution, it might not work, but the fact that you've gone through the effort of trying to find an idea or a way to work it out, I think just opens up and breaks down any barriers that they might have initially. So I think definitely a golden nugget, and I think, you know, we got to that one in the end.
I mean, there's I mean, and then you find your own, you know, thing.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a great believer in you know, make a decision. Don't be afraid of making a decision, even if it's the wrong one, because, you know, and this is probably another one that Alan's kind of helped me really explore and understand, is because at the time you make the decision, you're doing it with all the information you have, and you make a decision at that time. An hour later, it could be the worst decision in the world, but at least you made the decision based on the information you have, and never be afraid of making a decision. And I am very good at making decisions. And I think as a coach, you have to be. On the sidelines, if you're in that technical area, you have to be good at making decisions. Am I going to make a substitution now? Is it the right? You have to be able at making good decisions. You have to make decisions. In a leadership role, you have to make decisions based on the information you have.
Yeah, and I guess that only comes from practice. I guess, like, you just have to put yourself out there and then kind of reflect on the decisions that you do make and the actions that happen with it.
Yeah, and I think quite often, you know, we're scared of making mistakes, aren't we? This whole fear, how am I going to be perceived? What do people think of me? You know, but you learn sometimes from those mistakes. You will learn, you know, and everybody has those fears. Everybody. You know, but you got to make a decision.
Leading on from your golden nugget, and I'll just be interested to know if you had an opportunity to go back, you know, we're talking maybe 20 plus years now, back to your start of your coaching journey, is there anything that any messages that you'd want to give yourself at the start of that journey, knowing what you know now?
These are the hardest questions ever. um, um,
You can definitely recommend us for interviews for other people then if you want.
Yeah.
no, I'm just not very good at answering these sort of questions. I always think of the answer when it's over. As an aspiring coach, I would say, coach as much as you practice. You know, could I have done more practice? Yes. Although I think I did a lot. I would definitely, I'm thinking more about the things that I did that I think are valuable more. Yeah, I think I experienced different ages, genders, abilities, disabilities. I think it's really important to understand what you're good at and what you're not good at. You know, what your skill set is in terms of, are you better with young players? Are you better with older players? Are you better with able-bodied or not? Are you better with elite, grassroots? I think it's really important to understand what your skill set is and really run with that. I would say to my younger self, read more and explore leadership more, you know, learn from others who have gone before you, which I didn't do. I didn't do a lot of because I didn't have the time, but I was really pleased I had a mentor who, you know, had those experiences. And now I'm actually enjoying, because I have a little bit more time, which I don't really, but I'm finding more time to read those books that could help me, you know, and develop more. So I certainly would have told myself that, you know, knowledge is power. You know, power in a nice sense, not in a, you know, power in a, you know, upskill yourself. I definitely would have said that to my younger self.
And just on that, there, you know, you talked there about knowledge is power and reading. Is there any particular reading that you've done? Any book that you might recommend from your experience?
You know, so I've just started. I'm halfway through Legacy, which I'm sure most, you know, is the book of the moment. I don't know if you guys have read that. I was fortunate enough to listen to the author on a webinar, which is really good. I've read what's her name? God, it's right in front of me. Cheryl, is it Cheryl Sands? Cheryl, Lean In, the books. Cheryl, I can't remember her name, but Lean In, how you know, as a female, how you sit at the table apart from away from the table. Just some, you know, the Mind Gym. I'm looking at, you know, Sacred Hoops. I'm just starting to read all of those things that probably everybody thinks I've read. You know, someone once said, "Oh, Cope, you must do loads of reading." Absolutely not. No, this is all, you know, you think what you're doing is the right thing, but it's just a bit of affirmation when you, oh yeah, I've done that, that's good. Or you might get some new nuggets, because I don't think anybody's too old to learn. I'm still learning, and I'm enjoying doing that. Really enjoying reading what other people have done, and, you know, how it can help me develop and you know, help players, help coaches move on.
Fantastic. And like Yasser said, you've had like over like 20 years now in this game as a coach. You've been at England. You've also done the Great Britain's team, and now Brighton and Hove Albion. What is exactly next for Hope Powell?
Retirement would be really good, I think. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, I mean, I'm, you know, I feel very privileged and blessed that you know, not many people get the opportunity to say I've worked in the game, you know, this long, and the women's game, which I love. You know, I'd like to, you know, I'd like to come off the grass at some point. You know, I feel like I can't do a technical director's role. Did it at the FA. I'm not sure my perception of it, but I'm keen to explore that. I know there's some courses now. I was planning on doing a course last year, but I think it's quite demanding. So I'm exploring that and seeing whether that's something that would appeal to me. But at some point, I will get off the grass. I think there are talented female coaches in particular coming through. I'm very fortunate. I think I've got a really talented young coach at Brighton who I'm hoping is part of succession planning. She can stay. Well, Sinead's there. Amy Merricks is there. Sinead's a bit behind on her journey compared to Amy, who's got her A license, just been on the diploma course, and I just want to help those the next lot do well and do better than I did, and I want to be part of that until I retire. But I hope my journey, I want to stay at Brighton as long as I can. I think it's a fantastic club. I want to stay as long as they'll have me.
Fantastic.
Well, there you have it, guys. Another episode of the Coaches Network podcast, where our aim is to bring the world of athlete, talent, and personal development together to just one platform. And you can help us with that mission right now by sharing this episode or any of your favorite episodes with everyone that you can think of. You can tag us in those mentions as well on Instagram at the Coaches Network or on Twitter at the Coaches Net. We look forward to hearing from you. Let us know what you thought about today's episode. And until next time, guys, take care.